I don't think anyone living in Delhi, or for that matter NCR, can forget 1st November 2016, a day after Diwali. The city was covered in toxic fumes. A leftover of the firecrackers burst in the capital, taking Delhi's air quality index measured by particulate matter, or PM 2.5, to way beyond dangerous levels of over 700. So much so that every international and national publication covered Delhi's horrific air quality over this Diwali weekend. On a petition filed last year by 3 children, all under 2 years, the Supreme Court on 11th November recognized the unlimited damage caused by bursting of fireworks and ordered a complete ban on sale of fireworks in Delhi. But guess what? That ban has been lifted by another bench of the Supreme Court this week, ruling that blanket bans are too extreme and radical. Really? When we were all choking on poisonous, noxious gases? Welcome everyone to Urban Reality. We are asking 3 really important questions today. Is the alarming spike in air pollution post-Diwali not strong enough evidence? It's not just 1 year alone. It's AQI of 700 that begs this question. The Supreme Court has lifted the ban but made Delhi government and Delhi police responsible for ensuring that licenses are granted within the numbers specified by courts. Again, really? Can Delhi government and police be trusted with keeping fireworks under control? And our final question today, an important one. Apex Court has said that Delhi government's efforts at creating awareness has been lethargic. Our question, have awareness campaigns in schools through newspaper ads yielded any results? In 2016, PM 2.5 levels in South Delhi were 38% higher than on Diwali night of 2015. Joining me on the discussion today, Haripriya Padmanabhan, Supreme Court lawyer and mother of the 1.5-year-old petitioner Arjun Gopal, Polash Mukherjee, research associate at CSC, Dr. Tarun Sahni, internal and hyperbaric medicine, Apollo Hospital, and Bhargav Krishna, co-founder, Care for Air. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Haripriya, my first question to you is that was there really not enough evidence? I mean, and the Supreme Court said that CPCB, that's the Pollution Control Board, should have submitted its report.
That's right. Actually, the 11th November 2016 order is a totally detailed order where the Supreme Court sets out various reasons, articles, evidence about how the situation in Delhi is really grave, and especially post-Diwali, the PM 2.5 levels were very high, and therefore it was actually a totally reasoned order, giving adequate reasons about why there was a need for a ban post-Diwali. I just want to point out, we filed this petition in 2015 and sought for the same prayer in 2015 before Diwali, but we didn't get it. However, in 2016, immediately after Diwali, when everybody saw how bad the situation was and how grave it was, finally the Supreme Court itself realized that yes, serious situations warrant drastic actions. And therefore this order was passed, and we are very disappointed that today, when the climate is better and everything is hunky-dory, that another bench of the Supreme Court has, while acknowledging that all the reasons are right, has still gone ahead and vacated this order partially. And I would say this is a classic case of operation success but patient dead.
Patient dead, absolutely. Krishna, Bhargav, what she said, and I've read the order, it's a long order of 44 pages. At every point it says we recognize a citizen's life to breathe clean air, not just the citizens, the flora, fauna, everything around it. Yet this step has been too radical. What really happened? I mean, essentially, what is it? Just a question of forgotten, and therefore, now the air is not looking that damaged?
I think that's the question we're all trying to answer. I think if we scan through the order that was passed last year, I think it was extremely strong in the language that was used to put the primacy of public health and protecting public health up front before any economic interests were put forward. And I think in the last 10 months or so which have followed, the narrative has changed completely from talking about high particulate matter levels that are experienced because of combusting firecrackers to talking about what are the constituents of firecrackers, or what are the chemicals that are in firecrackers that are produced in Sivakasi, how do those chemicals really affect health? Whereas the dialogue that we were all trying to have really was the fact that pollution levels are extremely high, and that has a direct impact on respiratory and cardiovascular health, especially of children.
We'll come to the health issues a little bit later. I mean, I read the judgment, Polash, and I think the role of the Central Pollution Control Board was mentioned a couple of times. My question to you is that could the CPCB not have been given some time to come out with a report on the toxicity of the firecrackers which are being burst, rather than lifting this ban just because, you know, the manufacturers have said that it's going to affect our livelihood?
I think this order, if you read the details, is a very big indictment of this, the CPCB. The CPCB was asked in November last year to come up with a comprehensive report on how fireworks affect the health of people, and they haven't come back with a report to date. It's been a year almost. So the court has very clearly pointed out that given the lack of evidence, given that the CPCB has no standards of the permissible limits of these dangerous pollutants in the air, there is no evidence, there is no law that the Supreme Court can go by. And it has asked the CPCB to formulate these standards by the end of this month. How
capable is CPCB to actually do it by 30th September? That's another big question mark. If it couldn't do it in 3 months, what is to say that it will do it by 30th September? I will come to you just in a bit. I just needed to understand. Now, Haripriya, 50 lakh kgs of firecrackers are still available, leftover of last year, Delhi and NCR. Temporary licenses have been capped at 500. But look at it. I mean, this is really such a large amount still available for being burnt in Delhi this Diwali. So what are we staring at?
Well, totally. And you see, just taking from what was just mentioned earlier about CPCB itself. Now, the CPCB in court has repeatedly told the court that it does not have the wherewithal to look into the toxicity of the firecracker chemicals at all. That's what's shocking. And secondly, there is a little different point here, which I think which is very important. It is not about whether the chemicals which are released are per se toxic or not, right? The question is whether it is generating PM 2.5 and other small particulate matter or not. If it does, irrespective of what these particulate matter consist of, they are per se dangerous. For example, let me give you an example, because we're talking of air pollution, we're talking of people breathing it in, respiratory problems and trouble, right? So if water is not dangerous per se, but can you aspirate water? You cannot. Right? Rice, what we eat, is not dangerous, but can we aspirate rice? We cannot. So the entire focus, I think, is wrong. The focus is not on what do these chemicals contain. The focus should be on there is PM 2.5 generated, therefore this cannot continue. And the point is, it is everywhere recognized that there is a right to life, and right to life includes clean air, and that Delhi is polluted. The authorities have taken no action. Everything has been mentioned throughout the judgment and acknowledged by the court. But after all that, right at the end, the court goes ahead and modifies the order, and that's very disappointing.
Disappointing. And look at this. I mean, particulate matter of 2.5. Dr. Sahni, WHO study, India has the world's highest death rate from chronic respiratory diseases. CNCI study, that's a Chitranjan Cancer Institute study, 40% plus school children suffer from irreversible lung damage. So Haripriya is right in saying that you don't need to prove that firecrackers have noxious elements in them. The fact that particulate matter goes up to beyond 700 itself is enough empirical evidence.
No, absolutely. If you compare, I mean, everybody understands that cigarette smoking is bad for health. You know, passive smoking, if you're sitting in a room with a couple of smokers, you're going to breathe in as much as smoke. And why do we have to prove that firecrackers are not good for health? I mean, we should have a warning on them saying that, you know, firecrackers are injurious to health. And I think that should go along with everybody. Wherever there is a firecracker market or a store, they should put this up like they put it outside a cigarette hoarding. So I think the prevention on, you know, the use of firecrackers is definitely there. There is unrefutable, you know, evidence to state that the higher level of impurities in the air will cause respiratory diseases.
Do you get many more cases after Diwali?
No, definitely.
Isn't that enough? I mean, the court could have actually asked for just evidence of all the 5 big hospitals of Delhi to say how many more patients are you admitting for respiratory issues, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And I mean, both the most vulnerable category are, of course, the younger children and the elderly people. And those are the ones who are, either they travel away or they shut their doors and they sit inside
and
for those 48
air
hours.
purifiers, expensive. Those who can afford it, those who cannot afford it really don't have any option. But, you talked about awareness and putting posters. Bhargav, Krishna, I need to ask you, it's not that, for a week or at least 10 days, there are these huge ads which are run in newspapers by Delhi government, though the court has pulled them up for being lethargic on the awareness campaigns. Schools also run it. Probably school children are quite aware of it. But if I just looked at the data and I saw that these awareness campaigns literally have no impact on people, because every Diwali, your pollution levels are going up higher. So how do you really get that awareness going?
No, I think you're absolutely right, Manisha. And I think these campaigns, if they have been rolled out in a manner that has not been effective to date, because the medium is just not receptive to the audience that they are trying to reach. I recently read that the Ministry of Environment is also, the Minister Dr. Harshvardhan has said that the Ministry of Environment will also work towards raising awareness, but there's no clear roadmap on how they plan to do that, or how they are engaging with schools, or what kind of programs will be rolled out in schools to ensure that children are sensitized to the harmful effects of PM 2.5 exposure during Diwali and the effects of bursting firecrackers as well. So there needs to be some kind of systematic approach to this, and not just a month or so before Diwali when people have already probably purchased their firecrackers. Firecrackers are already being sold. This needs to happen several months in advance and also throughout the course of the year, if I'm honest.
Talk about this entire awareness issue. I mean, what would be needed to create this awareness? Because really, if I look at it, Polash, the richer the area, more firecrackers which are burst, the pollution levels show it. So South Delhi 700, Pitampura crosses 1200.
Unfortunately, there's a competition of sorts. It's more about what is the worth of firecrackers you're burning.
As Delhians, we just don't care. Do we not care at all? I mean, we may go hoarse, media may go hoarse, but Delhians simply don't care.
I want to focus on a very interesting part of the order. The last order that the court had asked the central government to try and look into making community-based celebration of Diwali rather than at the individual level. This is how it's done in countries abroad. This is how it's done in countries like Dubai and Singapore. So the idea here is not to burst the firecrackers, but to enjoy them and to have community-based viewing of firecrackers, which would reduce the total quantum of firecrackers used.
And it's done globally. In every large city, yes, celebratory, yes, firecrackers are beautiful, but they're not burnt at every nook and corner, every road. Even if 5 families do not want to burst it, they do not have any other option but to breathe noxious gases, because 25 other families are bursting it on the same road. So you can only shut your doors and put air purifiers. What about actually making Delhi police responsible for curtailing licenses to 500? The court in its judgment actually recognized that last year temporary licenses granted were many more than what was needed. So there were illegal licenses which were granted. And secondly, to actually control fireworks from being burst around sensitive areas like education institutes and hospitals. Stay with us. This is a really extremely important topic. The judgment has come. It's not made too much of noise. But are we really, as people living in NCR and Delhi, ready for another toxic Diwali this year?